We got some major breaking news as it was just announced that Kaulig Racing has lost their appeal. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. As I just said a second ago, the appeal for Kaulig Racing has happened a week after the Hendrick Motorsports appeal, and it was announced today that the Kaulig appeal has been lost. According to what was announced just a few minutes ago, the National Motorsports Appeals Panel rules to uphold the L2 penalty issued to the number 31 team of Kaulig Racing. $100,000 fine and 4-race crew chief suspension stand, and the teams and drivers' owners points have been amended to a loss of 75 points. So the only change here is basically they get 25 points back, and they still lose the 10 playoff points they lost, but they do get 25 of their points back, so they do get a little bit back, but generally they have lost the appeal and go from basically having 100 points down to 75 points lost. I do not understand how this makes any sense. Now, for the record, just a reminder that the appeals panel, I'm not sure who was on the appeals panel this time around, but the appeals panel for this one is different than the Hendrick appeal. The Hendrick appeal has a different group than this appeal, so keep that in mind. But also, I want to make clear that I'm not mad at NASCAR for this situation because NASCAR does not run the appeals panel. The National Motorsports Appeals Panel is basically a separate entity and a separate group from NASCAR. So don't go after NASCAR and don't get mad at NASCAR for this decision. But now I'm going to get a little frustrated here. How in the world does Hendrick Motorsports get all their playoff points back and all of their points back, and Kaulig Racing only gets 25 of their points back? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It should be the same across the board. If Hendrick gets their points back, also they still had suspensions and fines, by the way, how in the world do they basically get all their points back and Kaulig only gets 25 of their points back? It doesn't make any sense. And like I said, I understand it is a different appeals panel this time around than the one that Hendrick had. And again, Hendrick Motorsports probably presented evidence. From what I understand, only one of the louvers on the Kaulig car was confiscated. And again, it is in the rules you're not supposed to modify the parts. So yes, they probably were caught for modifying the parts, but could it be a manufacturing issue? It's definitely possible. That's something that could have came into play and could have been the case, considering it wasn't both of the hood louvers that came out the 31 car. It was only one hood louver from what we understand. So it just doesn't make any sense to me how one gets away with it, basically getting all the points back, because the biggest thing is that the Hendrick Motorsports, they can pay the $100,000 fine, and they've already served 2 weeks of their crew chief suspension, which now means that Trent Owens is going to have to start his crew chief suspension because he basically had altered it and not basically deferred the suspension until the appeal had happened. It should have completely been the same penalty that Hendrick Motorsports got, and basically the change in that. And the fact that it's different is frustrating to me. Look, again, they didn't even run with this car. I guess maybe the case could be the fact that they did qualify, because I think they qualified the car before they took it away. I could be wrong in that front because Hendrick Motorsports got theirs caught before practice or before qualifying. I know that Hendrick practiced theirs, but I'm just a little shocked and surprised that Hendrick Motorsports basically got away with it quintessential years back in the championship hunt. And this is going to bring the favoritism and say, oh, NASCAR is completely favoring, which again, NASCAR is not favoring. I talked about it earlier today that NASCAR was really frustrated and disappointed with the decision they made. And I think NASCAR will be happier with the decision. And again, don't go after NASCAR. Go after National Motorsports Appeals Panel because they're the ones that made the decision here. And again, generally, the National Motorsports Appeals Panel has been a little bit lighter with the penalties, especially for Hendrick Motorsports, who also with William Byron last year, they got away with it quintessentially. So now Justin Haley at least has 26 points down instead of 1 point, but man, it's just disappointing to see that they cannot be consistent, and it should completely be consistent. If one team gets one penalty, the other team, it should be the same thing. The fact that it's in a gray area, and the fact that one basically got to get all their points back, and the other group only got 25 of their points back and still had negative 10 playoff points, I think is a load of BS. I think it's frustrating to see. And the fact that it was not consistent with the protocols in that situation, I do find a little bit frustrating. And again, I don't understand this. Again, it should be completely consistent. The fact it was not consistent is very frustrating as a fan because now you've given Hendrick Motorsports at least them, because now you're going to have bias in the garage quintessentially. And I think over the weekend there's going to be talk about this where people are going to think the appeals panel is completely biased to Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Elliott, Josh Berry, Alex Bowman, everyone in the Hendrick Motorsports team, including Jeff Gordon, but they're not biased toward Kaulig Racing. I just think there needs to be more consistency going forward with this, and I find it as a fan very frustrating to see that they were not consistent with it. We do have the Denny Hamlin appeal coming tomorrow, though, and I imagine that Denny will probably win his appeal unless they don't basically win appeal, which would be very inconsistent. So I do find it disappointing they cannot be consistent with the Hendrick penalty. It's disappointing. It's been kind of a dark day for the sport, especially with the whole media rights that we're going to talk about on Friday. But I do find it very disappointing and frustrating to see that there was no consistency here. Very disappointing and very frustrating as a fan. So, that is going to today's NASCAR news and motorsports news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on so you know if I win a video, let's go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links description below with that, and comment your thoughts below on today's video. Do you think that the National Motorsports Appeals Panel completely screwed this up or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have race picks for the Cup Series race at Bristol Dirt. Then on Friday morning, there'll be a NASCAR news video on the channel. We're discussing news over the last couple days and probably including some updates probably to the Hendrick Motorsports Appeals, the Kaulig racing situation. And we'll also talk about the media rights still stuff. Then Saturday, I'll have reactions to the trucks race at Bristol Dirt. And then followed by Sunday, we'll have the Cup reactions to Bristol Dirt as well. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.